And it's nice to get the opportunity. At any time, if you need to refresh your coffee or pastries, feel free to do so. My name is Keith H. I'm the interim president of Evergreen Valley College. I've been in this role for approximately 6 wonderful months, but I've been at this college for 23 years. Came as a faculty member, and then a dean, then a vice president, and I have a sincere passion for this place, and it's really nice to be here. And I just wanted to welcome you. I'll be coming back later to give you some updates, but this campus is doing some remarkable things. Today's focus will be on our facilities master's plan, and that'll be led by Vice President Andre Alexander. And my updates will be supported by 2 other wonderful vice presidents, Vice President Adela Swinson and Vice President Mark Gonzalez, who's with us today, and they'll be coming up. But before I do that, the last 6 months I've had the pleasure to work with one of the hardest working visionary leaders that you can ever work with in a very close-knit way, and we've done some wonderful things. And just the fact that we're here talking about a facilities master plan, it was a collective work of the whole team. But when you take on a new job and you jump in and start dealing with measure X and Y and Z, and to do that leadership, it takes a wonderful leader. And at this time, I'd like to introduce our Chancellor, Dr. Debbie Budd.
Thank you so much. Thank you, President H. Well, thank you for coming this evening. I see several familiar faces, but some that I don't recall meeting before. So if I could just ask before I give you a couple of highlights to just kind of get a feel for who's in the room, right? So since if we had 100 people that we were hoping, I probably wouldn't have done them. But now that we have about 30, I'd like to just ask. We have an incredible math faculty right here helping us out.
Wesley Lee.
Daniel Reyes.
Robert Reese with the District 8 Community Roundtable Land Use Committee.
Cantor Quinio, Psychology faculty.
Mark Burbeck, Automotive faculty.
Eric Darmson, History faculty.
Mark
Faculty Senate President.
Senate President.
Mark Gonzalez.
EP.
Christina Gaston Imperial, Mark PPR.
Yes.
Andre Alexander, Vice President.
And Megan Gons with HPI Architecture.
Megan Gons with
HPI Architecture.
With
With your field map with Cambridge West Partnership.
Paul Swinson, local resident.
Adela Swinson, Vice President of Student Affairs.
Doug Smith, staff.
Stan Hall. Jeannie Okanoy, Evergreen.
Euro Kravitz, Steve Evergreen.
And I'm Brian Brown, Public Information Officer.
And I'm Kevin Larson, writer at Evergreen Times.
And Owen is our
Ledger, Director of Facilities.
Penny.
Octavio Cruz, Dean of Enrollment Services here at Evergreen Valley College.
Oh, and David, you're behind Eric, and I'm sitting with you.
David Message, Evergreen Valley College, DSP.
Well, it's great to see both our faculty and staff community here and our local community here. And, you know, as President H said, he has been in this role for a little over 6 months and doing incredible work, bringing the team together and ensuring that the courses that we offer serve our students to move on into transfer or into careers. One of our new focus this year has been guided pathways to ensure that when students come into us, they can get to and through into a career or a 4-year university within, ideally, a 3-year time period. Sometimes it was taking 4 to 5 years if students needed a lot of foundational skills, and we're doing a lot of work in our student services area to help get students in the right class, help them see the light at the end of the tunnel, and be able to complete their degree. We have some incredible programs. I'm so glad to see the automotive faculty here. You know, I don't know how many of you have had a tour. I'm sure someday they'd be happy to do that, to see what we're offering. Our students go right from here to work with Tesla and Honda and Ford, right?
Yeah, GMC, so many deals around here.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. We also have an incredible nursing program here, as well as we've done a lot of work with robotics and advanced manufacturing. And for the community members that might not know, in the last year we've been working with the local high schools with what's called dual enrollment, so we can get high school and college credit at the same time. And we've worked with NextFlex, who they're an advanced manufacturing firm. And so the students take a 1-month-long course and develop some type of flexible technology. They're developing wearable patches that test your heart rate, that will test your hormone level, that test for people for diabetes. And the students are so innovative. A couple have actually now put theirs forward to the patent office. We started with 8 students. We've had over 2,000 students, and that started right here with the leadership at Evergreen Valley College to expand that, and we're setting up a model for regional colleges and across the state. We have expanded a Spark Point Center here for students that are low income, to help them with financial coaching and to help them with food pantries. And I really want to thank Kevin for his nice articles. He came out at Thanksgiving, really sharing some of what we're doing with our local community. So as President H says, we are here for the community. We are absolutely the goal of helping students know that they can go to college and creating a college-going culture in the city of San Jose. Last year we received a $1.5 million grant from the state to create our San Jose Promise. And that is in partnership with Mayor Sam Liccardo, working closely with our local agencies so that students come to us to have their college paid. There's a statewide movement to have the first year of college paid. Our promise is for 2 years, but not only just for the classes, but for their textbooks, for their health fee and transportation fee, and for mentoring and internships. And that's a big piece we're proud of, being right here in the Silicon Valley, developing internships. So part of our goal as we're developing the current land right here for our facilities master plan, and part of what we're looking at, as you've heard for years, of looking at any surplus land to bring in additional income for student success. And that's exactly what that can help our students get additional fees and even internships to move on and be successful in their career or into a 4-year institution. We have really increased our transfers to the UC. Last year we had a 24% increase in applications to the UCs and a 34% increase in acceptance. 91% of our African American students that applied to a UC were accepted. And we still have the highest transfer rate from Evergreen Valley College to San Jose State of any of the 114 colleges in the entire state. So I think the college deserves a big round of applause for that. And I think, you know, I've been here now 2 years. And one thing that I found when I got here was we were really a pretty good kept secret. And we're still working on it. Many people across the state still think that it's Evergreen Valley College District, right? We have San Jose City College that's going to turn 100 years old in 2021, and we have Evergreen Valley College that just celebrated its 40th anniversary a year ago. And as part of that, you may see that there are some buildings that were 40 years old that just got torn down. And thank goodness our local community voted for our Measure X that can now help build a new building. As we went out for Measure X, we brought in experts with architects to develop, to look at our educational master plan and a facilities master plan. And we looked at that to get an idea for a cost of what we could go out for a bond. And that work that was done in the facilities master plan came up with the amount that we went out for the bond of the $748 million. Now we know that when that was done, that was before we had the money, and sometimes things change, economy changes, like, is what we identified what we still want? And is what we identified, what's the phasing? Do we want to do something in automotive auto body or collision repair, right? Do we want to do more in robotics? Do we want to expand, our healthcare area? Do we want to go into more occupational health and physical therapy and expand a fitness center and aquatic center? So what do we want to make sure is in there, and what do we want to make sure we can phase in? And tonight, I really look forward to and appreciate, first off, the work of our Vice Chancellor Smith that helped at the initial stages of getting the facilities master plans completed and off the ground. But now really at the college level with President H and Vice President Andrea Alexander to share with you what's been shared at the college, what they're thinking of for timing, and what they want to develop. So I know she has a really great presentation for you. And as President H said, we'll both be here throughout the presentation if you have any questions afterwards. But thank you for coming. Thank you, Evergreen Valley College faculty, staff, and administrators for being here, and community. So I look forward to learning with you.
I'm going to give you some updates. Unfortunately, the Chancellor gave you all my updates. So anyway, here's our agenda, and I want to cover a few updates, and I'll deal with the Chancellor later. But anyway, here's the updates I want to talk about. First is in our enrollment. You have to understand that Evergreen Valley College is surrounded within a 60-mile radius by 11 other community colleges. And I must tell you, our district is the only district currently that has an increase in enrollment. Last fall, Evergreen had an increase of 3%. Currently right now for the spring, 1%. And you might say, wow, why is that? It's because we're doing great work here. The Chancellor and I were at a meeting a month ago, and we had, the other side of us was a Chancellor from De Anza Foothill. And she remembers this. And he was glaring at us. And to let you know, their enrollment is down. And our enrollment is up, and he was just looking at us the whole time. And part of it is the new leadership, the hard work we're doing, our wonderful faculty and staff. And not only are we doing outreach, we're doing inreach, right? We're doing a lot of things to support our students, and it's important. Our accreditation, great news. We had a visit, I think 16 of fall 16. We were reaffirmed. We have a follow-up report that we'll be submitting in March 15th. And it's nice to see all this hard work we do, because it means a lot to the community to know that we are reaffirmed. But it also means a lot to the faculty and staff and students, because collectively we worked as a team. And also, what's important, we had a wonderful working relationship with the district who collaborated with us, and it's important that we do this work. Guided pathways. Anybody pay attention to the governor's budget? He's offering us more money. But if you pay attention, he's also saying you have more measurable outcomes, correct? Completion agenda. And so that's why guided pathways is important. And right now we have a grant for approximately $881,000 for the next 5 years. But to achieve that money, you have to have outcomes. And I have to give credit where credit is due. Prior to all the other colleges competing, we went to these regional meetings, but because of the insight, the Chancellor, we started our work before everybody else. So when we went to the meeting, we were prepared. And we're now prepared to support our students. And this is really, folks, I'm gonna explain something. This is not about money. We owe it to our students in our community to help them complete. A lot of students come open through our doors, but we need to help them complete, and this is important. And the Chancellor gave you the transfer rates. It's nice to know, year to date, we have increased our transfer applications by 34%. That's amazing. That means more students will be transferring to UCs and CSUs, and that's important. Part of the guided pathways is, that she talked about, is our relationship with the city, and it's called the San Jose Promise, but I must tell you, I can't do that. I call it the EVC Promise. And we were targeted, Della, 250 students? We right now have 266 students. And I just told some great news. During intersession, 1/3 of our promise students are in intercession. 90 students are taking our intercession right now. It's great work. Kudos to Student Services, Academic Affairs for their good work in this program. And the EVC Promise is doing some great things. And then Spark Point, and let me tell you the challenge for us, if people understand this. You can have all the guided pathways, but as you know, this is a very expensive community. And many of our students, whether it's housing, they don't have the funds to even afford food. And so we need different additional resources, and Measure X will hopefully give us some dollars to support our students. And Spark Point is about financial literacy. It's one thing to help students buy a meal, but many of our students make decisions that impact their life tremendously where they can't financially survive. And this is important that we give them financial literacy, financial coaching on campuses, as well as a food bank where they can actually get meals. There are many days I walk into the cafeteria and I will buy a student lunch. And it might seem minor to you, right? Because when I buy my staff lunch, they just take me for granted. Oh, you're supposed to buy me lunch. But for a student, that $5 goes a long way. Many students make decisions on housing that impede their ability to succeed their dreams. There are families who live in garages. There are students who live in what we call uncomfortable situations just so they can survive. This is important. If we're going to make it as a community college, we have to support our students. So this is when I got all my muscles and I listed 400 turkeys. And I wanted to show you this because this is what we need to do for our students. And the chancellor and I, we have this thing about saying thank you. And when a student takes a moment to honestly say, thank you, Evergreen Valley College, that's the reason I come to work every morning, is so I can help students. And it's important, all the work we do, whether it's buildings, but let me tell you something, you can have all the buildings in the world. Students need an academic space to grow. But if we don't give them the financial ability to continue to go to college, we're doing them a disservice. And it's important that what we do now balances both those needs. And at this point, I want to turn it over to Vice President Andrea Alexander, and she will lead us through the majority of today's presentation. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see everyone here today, community leaders and a few familiar faces. Always good to see you. I think Chancellor Budd and President H are giving me too much credit. The presentation isn't that good, but it's very informative. So that's all that counts right now. So we're just going to jump right in to it. Right now we're going to talk about the Facilities Master Plan, which I so greatly inherited when I took over this position. So thank you, Doug Smith, and the work of the district, Owen Lecter, who I will be bringing up a little later to help me with this. So I inherited the Facilities Master Plan, which is a great, great plan based on the market needs and where we see the college growing in the next few years. This particular plan was indeed informed by our Educational Master Plan. The Educational Master Plan, which of course Megan Gauntz will also, who's one of our partners with Cambridge West, who helped develop it, we'll talk a little bit more about, but is basically based on the economic trends, the market trends we see happening in this particular area, where we see potential growth for the college and our curriculum going forward until about 2030. So when that Facilities Master Plan was indeed done after the education, or in tandem, I should say, with it, there were some highlights that came out of that. One of those highlights were some of the buildings that we had here on campus needed to have renovations. But in addition to that, the master plan also alerted us to some buildings that we needed to actually construct between now and, of course, 2030 to meet the needs of our students, growing population, and the community at large. Furthermore, what the facilities master plan identified was the potential of these 6 buildings you see right before you. And so it called for a general education building, a student service center, a language arts building, an engineering building, a gym, and an aquatic center at this point. Right now, these buildings are based on the landscape of the current college landscape that we have right now. And so let's move on a little bit to talk about that. So the factors that were really considered, again, was just the need for additional growth by 2030. Right now, the facilities master plan calls for there needing to be anywhere from 19 to 20 additional classrooms and labs for the campus based on our projected growth by the year 2030. There are some buildings or some classrooms based on subjects or a particular curriculum that are saying we need to have by 2020 or 2025. So that is where the sequencing in the last slide came from. But those were indeed recommendations and suggestions made by our consultants, which Megan will get to a little later. And then we also recognize that, as President H said, it's not only the construction of the buildings, but providing supportive services for our students. So with the growth of these, with the growth of the college for our students and staff, we recognize that there also needed to be consideration for growth within student services and a need for that building because of all of the diversity and the multitude of concerns and different services we need to provide our students. So these were the 2 catalysts for why the buildings were selected based on market trends, the curriculum where we see the growth of the college going, the growth of the students. So it was curriculum, it was the need for providing supportive services for our students. And so with that, I'm just going to turn it over for about a few minutes to Owen Lecter, our Director of Facilities. And then after him, Megan Gauntz. Owen will give an overview of the landscape of the college right now and where some of those projected buildings are planning to be housed. And then Megan will come up and give us a little bit more information about what went into deciding the buildings and how we plan to really open up the campus to make this a very, very good location for all of our students to want to join. So Owen?
I need the little pointy red thing. So for those of you who are familiar with campus, it'll be a review. For those of you who may not be familiar, hopefully we'll provide you some more information and some more details. But the master plan did 2 things. It identified building locations on campus, and it identified future building pads as well as buildings that would be in need of renovation. So let me run through the future or the new building pad. So the first building pad is this spot down here. The lake is right here. The new MS3 building or the Science Center building is right here. So that was building pad number 1. Building pad number 2 is what we refer to at the campus as parking lot number 4. And then we also obviously have building pads here where Roble used to stand. So 9 years ago, the Board of Trustees received a report that identified Roble and Acacia as having built portions of the building within the earthquake fault zone. So this gray hatched area up here is our earthquake fault zone on campus. Roble used to extend to about this level right here. So you can see it was within that fault zone. So the recommendation was to remove that building at the earliest possible time when funding was available. So with the construction of the MS3 building and the fitness center, that provided us the space to move folks from what is Acacia building here down to there. We then moved people from Roble into Acacia and scattered some other people around campus as part of that move. So so this is in its current configuration, the Acacia site. It butts up over here. There's a bridge that connects Acacia to the Sequoia Hall building. It's right up next to the Sequoia lecture room. Acacia sits right here. So future plan for that is not building site, but parking. Our next open site is this area down here. We refer to it as parking lot 5. And the area south of the fitness center, recently completed fitness center. So this is in the master plan. Megan will discuss a little bit physical education, kinesiology, and aquatics, all down in this area of the campus. So those are our new building sites. Building site number 3 is a building that currently is the Student Services Center. It's identified in the plan there as a demolition and construction of a new building there. It could be a renovation of that building. That'll be determined as we move forward. And then our existing buildings that are identified for renovation include Cedro Hall, because some of the faculty in the classes that have moved from, that were in this building have moved over here. The Sequoia Hall and Sequoia Lecture. And then, so this is an expansion of the biology, this is expansion of the biology classroom. This is Sequoia, that's Sequoia Lecture. This is actually admissions and records, A&R building. And then this is identified up here, building site 5, which is the front half of where Robley was, I think, as engineering and nursing facility. So with that, that sort of orients everyone. Missing from the slide is a new entrance to campus that would connect to Yerba Buena on the edge of the softball or the soccer field. New parking out here. But that would bring you, a new entrance would bring you in, and then student services would be that building that you see right there. So again, that's kind of an orientation to campus. And I'll turn it over to Megan for more information for you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Megan Gons with HPI Architecture, and we worked with Cambridge West Partnership throughout the year and a half that we worked on both the Education Master Plan and the Facilities Master Plan. And in order to determine a Facilities Master Plan, you need to be able to look at things that we call the systems, so all the physical aspects of the campus, and marry that together with the educational need. The goal is that things like pedestrian circulation, parking, open space, places for students to hang out, that those will essentially come and support together each other, along with the physical buildings, the educational resources and needs, and then all that together essentially creates the collegiate environment that becomes a campus. And when one of those pieces falls out of place, you start to see deficiencies that start to happen over time. So our job as facilities master planners was to work with the education team, hear what they said was going to be needed over the next 15, 20 years, and then work with them both to determine the best home for new programs and growing programs and relocations, as well as the best sequence. And sequencing comes down to the ability to have less disruption on the campus. For instance, if one department has to move 2 or 3 times because they're going to keep moving from temporary home to temporary home to temporary home, that's more of a disruption than moving once or sometimes twice. And then also temporary housing, you've seen on other campuses when the portable villages come on, that takes up land and it takes up dollars. So there's a little bit of puzzle pieces that come together to help create a wise sequence that uses the dollars in an efficient way that help to create the needs of the campus. So building upon what we've just recently heard, building number 1 here, the goal here was to take an open pad that's currently an empty site and build the first building. And our hopes there was that between Robley already coming down and Acacia needing to come down, and then also the east wing of physical education, that there'd be room for a number of classrooms and labs as well as offices for both faculty and adjunct down here in building 1. What that allows the campus to do is then to open up through here and connect the south and the north campus to improve your outdoor spaces and to start tying in the new wonderful facilities that have recently opened with the original campus, which is just right up here. And if I'm on the map here, this is part of your original campus. And MS3 and our fitness facilities that are new to campus came in the south. Currently, it's quite a tight connection between the north and south campus. Not necessarily easy to move through from an accessibility manner or from a gracious manner. And we're looking to build upon the outdoor spaces to continue to provide spaces for students, spaces for clubs to gather and students to hang out, and for reasons for students to want to stay on campus longer and study a little bit more and maybe pick up that extra class. Project number 2 here was labeled as a student services building. And one of the reasons for that is that currently student services is a little bit buried on campus, which is right here about where number 3 is. And so by bringing that to the front of campus, off of a new entry drive and a drop off and a turnaround, that we're gonna basically begin to redefine how the campus presents itself to the neighborhood, improve upon those services and resources, and make it easier to become a new student and a first-time guest to the campus. The result of that facility moving would allow this location to open up. So again, with trying to keep pads being open and being conscious of how we're moving individuals on campus, this is already an open pad. It's currently a parking lot. And then this here, whether it would become a renovation of the existing student services building or a new facility, the goal there would be to provide a large volume of new both lectures and labs on campus. Project number 4 would be the renovation of Cedra to allow for productive, it was really to renovate some classrooms and then to also provide for a couple of those offices in there to be renovated. And then 5 would be another engineering building. And that would have to be, the reason why it's that size and that angle is because we're being cautious of that fault zone. And then also here, the campus currently has parking right over here on your west side and right over here on your east side. You can drive through that right now, but it's not necessarily gracious, and the amount of parking up there is restricted to faculty and some handicapped stalls. So this plan is also rebalancing your parking on campus. Sometimes what we hear is that we don't have a parking problem, we have a walking problem when we go to different campuses. And being able to provide parking in a close proximity to the classrooms that the students are using helps quite a bit. So this here was providing a large number of stalls. And when you're thinking of Evergreen Valley, that's providing those stalls on that upper level. Due to your topography here, you are on a slope. And so that's providing stalls that would be able to readily access the north part of the quad and the academics on that north quad. So overall, these buildings and the systems were to start working with an improved framework. And I have to say, as someone who's not here on this campus on a regular basis, you've already started implementing some of that. This new outdoor space is quite an improvement from 2.5 years ago when we were here on campus, 3 years ago when we started. The wayfinding and signage that's been going on has been different than what we've seen, or than when we were here before, what we saw. And so you're already starting to see that this spine becomes strengthened between the east and the west side of campus, that the open space and the quad are being improved. And so when these facilities down here are built, that's really densifying the south part of campus. And this open space will really provide the students with more outdoor spaces and more places to both socialize, hang out, and really allow the campus to support those uses.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you so much. One of the things that happened when we did the facilities master plan back in December 2015 is we hadn't passed our bond. So thank you to Chancellor Budd and Vice Chancellor Doug Smith. That bond was indeed passed. $748 million, the second largest in the state, correct, Doug? The third largest, with 3 now. Oh, okay, I like 2 better. But it's okay. So we're the third largest in the state, and of that, Evergreen Valley College is going to be allocated $319 million. So it's important to know when we did the educational master plan, we did it with the hope of being able to definitely build these buildings and get the renovation done. But once Measure X came along, so we were already programming, is now that Measure X is passed, these things are now possible. So it's important to understand that as we go into that, what are the next steps now that we have the educational master plan, this informed the facilities master plan, and now as we're vetting it on campus. So right now the campus is in the midst of determining which buildings should be first in the sequence. We do have the recommendations from indeed the consultants, so we're still in the midst of doing that and finishing that up. And then in addition to that, the bonds will now, good luck Doug, by the way, will now begin their sale process, or the sale season, in the next 6 months. And even with that, what we're looking to do is once the campus makes decisions and we move to the next stages, we get into the design phase of those buildings. We will revisit the program reviews to make sure that the needs of those programs, those buildings, and the curriculum that was there 2 years ago are still the needs now. So we want to make sure those still mesh. So we'll look at those once again when we go into the design phase. And then from the design phase, we're looking at construction about 2020 to start that. We're being hopeful, but it's going to happen. So those are the next phases. Right now, determining the sequence of the buildings, the design, or the sale of the bonds within the next 6 months. We're still going to be in the design phase between the next 6 months and 18 months, and then we're looking for construction or breaking ground by 2020. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to President H, and I know he's going to open it for some Q&A.
Thank you. So here's the time we ask questions. While we got all the experts in the room, we got the Chancellor here, we got Vice Chancellor Smith, we've got Christina here, who works and lives in the community. Yes?
I had a question. When you were presenting that map, is that exactly the current? If you could put back on the slide the map. Just a quick question on it. Now, you were presenting all of this. Is this, I'm just curious, is this accurately what you're gaining towards, or what we have now? I'm not sure the time of it. Was that what we have now? I'm not sure what that is.
So this is the facilities master plan. So this is what we're shooting for, our goal for 2030.
Okay, that's
to
all.
be built out in 2030.
So this is a goal of 2030, all these things.
Correct. So these, oops, wrong way. Wrong button. These white buildings are our existing buildings. The tan are renovation, existing building or renovate, and then the dark brown are either new or renovation.
I just wanted a clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. 2030.
Any other questions? Questions? I do want to say that to Vice President Alexander's point, and I get a lot of good information from Doug Smith and the Chancellor. As you're aware, due to the fires and the cost of instruction, it is important that we make decisions as fast as possible, because inflationary costs of building, as you know, it was yesterday, just a house, a medium, was it $1 million, right? And I got some good help from a friend over here. I mean, I still live in Sacramento. So it is important. And there was even a story of a faculty member was it San Jose State, who was living in her car, right? And so you can think when it comes to construction, we need to make decisions. And so, because the longer we wait, right, we're not doing a service to the community who invested in us and to our students. So it is important that we make decisions, and that's why we have this community forums and get feedback. No other questions? Oh, now, okay. Let's see. We'll start here. Yes.
I didn't realize the timeline was so long that we have until 2030 to use up the $319 million. Is that
No. The $230 was projection of growth. Once you sell bonds, you have to use that money within a period of time. Is it 3 years?
Yeah, we do. We have authority to issue for $748 million as approved by the taxpayers, and we do issuances in lots, that which we can convert from cash into buildings within a 3-year phase. So we may, for this $748 million, we may have 4 or 5 or 6 issuances over the next 10 or 12 years. First issuance, we're targeting May. We expect it to be in the range of, I'll say, 60 million to 100 million, something like that, which we believe we can process and complete, spend all of that, and convert it from cash to buildings within that 3-year time frame.
I'm gonna go this way. You had a question?
How is student population growth determined?
Well, it's determined on two things. One is the population of our feeder districts who feed into us, right? There's no, right now, if you know in this area, there's no growth. And let me give you a horrible status, you understand this. I'm on the East Side Alliance, and right now, East Side School District and all the feeding school districts, their enrollment is down. As a matter of fact, they're laying off employees, right? And one of the reasons is the cost of living, right? And so the fact that we're actually growing as a college, and it has a lot to do with our dual enrollment, our San Jose Promise, but right now, a lot of families can't afford to live here. So families don't live here. I think on the news, there are people going to the board meeting because they're talking about closing schools. I can't remember the school district right now, but it was on the news yesterday. And so what happens is, if those populations disappear, it will impact our enrollment. The other thing impacts enrollment, as you know, when the economy goes up, there's more jobs. Fewer people come to school because they're making more money, in the economy. And so it's now, ironically, when unemployment increases, more people go back for retraining in school. So that's why you have to understand the fact that we're growing and everybody else in the whole state, most colleges are going down, speaks to our great work we're doing here and the great work you're doing in the classroom. So it speaks to that. You have a question?
I had been interested in your comments on housing and how it affects enrollment, and I think you made a comment about Evergreen's enrollment being healthy relative to the North County community colleges.
Yes.
One of the things that the community has been concerned about is the 18,000 kids that leave San Jose to go to other community colleges in North County and West Valley areas of San Jose County. Do you think that the cost of housing will bring kids back to San Jose Community College District Evergreen?
Well, I think it's twofold. One is, we offer a better product and stronger staff that will attract more students here. That's number one. The other thing, if you haven't noticed, I was at a meeting with the chancellor at 5 o'clock at Levi Stadium. It took me 1 hour to get from Levi Stadium back to campus. So what's happening now is people can't work and move around to different campuses. A lot of students, they share different campuses. So what's happening now is if you're in this area, you pretty much stay in this area. You don't go out to De Anza, West Valley, you stay in this area. So that's not, the housing is expensive, but the most inexpensive housing, granted, we have $1 million homes on this side, but on this side, right, they're expensive, but comparatively, they're not. So it's not so much housing, is that we're offering a better product. We have the San Jose Promise, we have dual enrollment. We work endlessly with the East Side School District and Franklin McKinley to attract more students. As the chancellor mentioned, our entrepreneurship program, we're doing all we can to have a better product and great faculty and staff. As the chancellor said, we're probably the best hidden secret. And I can speak to that. I was a faculty member for 13 years, right? And some of the mystique about why to go, people don't understand, and we're talking about this, is that I had my vice president do some research for me, and many of the programs they offer at other colleges, we offer here. There's a friend of mine who's a counselor here, and his granddaughter goes to, I believe, Los Positos in Livermore. And he's a counselor. He says we offer more programs there. De Anza's a wonderful school. They offer more programs than most community colleges in the state, period. They have 20,000 students. But now they're losing students because they're coming back to Evergreen because we offer better programs and better services, right? I didn't lift 400 turkeys for no reason, right? We're saying to our students, we're here for you, to care for you. You had a question.
I'm a long-time resident since 1973, and I have been very direct to the chancellors, and it's not to insult them or to feel that I'm trying to diminish them. I think they're an important part of the college and its growth. So please accept the way I speak, not to take it personal, but because I'm a concerned citizen and resident, and I care for the future students' well-being and their future. Today's news was about President Trump referring to people from El Salvador as countries from shithole. And I was offended when the dean, vice chancellor, referred to the college as a farm. And that's why I directed you my statements, because I think I speak the truth. But your position should not be the one to refer to this college as a farm. I hope that that's in the past, and that you can see and show us what the students are supposed to be. Okay, so accept what I'm telling you. Regarding the 27 acres, as a Mason, I know that my fraternity gives $1,200,000 every year at least for students in high schools so they can transfer to colleges. So whatever revenues that I still don't know what it's going to be from the leasing of the 27 acres, still I'm questioning it very strongly. Why you were giving us wooden pennies or nickels for that land when we have a master plan that it only goes up to 2030, and yet we lease the land for 99 years. So it doesn't take a scientist to question your way of thinking, your reasoning, because we don't know what technology is going to request from community colleges. So I still question your wisdom. I'd like to know what the revenues you get from the building on Market Street. And if it's a community, why the meetings are held way up in here? You just mentioned that it's difficult for the students to come, and that's what, to other colleges, and the community makes it difficult for us to go to the meetings that you're having like next month, next week. So I think either you're doing intentionally or you don't have in mind the input of the community. Those meetings should be held here, not downtown. And if we don't have enough community members in here, it's because of the traffic or because they're busy. But our interest is in the community and its students and what it's going to reflect in the future. I'm glad the programs are growing and you have a lot of things to offer. I applaud that because that's what we've been fighting for. But there's still too many things that needs to be answered. Faculty, don't get offended. But this meeting also should have been done during the staff meeting at the beginning of the semester in conjunction with the invitation to the community. So I can see we, not only me, but the community can interject with the faculty. So we get to be friends. Another thing is offering. I know that the college is empty during the evenings. Fridays, forget it, it's a closed town. Saturdays, same thing. Be creative. Think out of the box. And see how we can bring either high school students or industry to make use of the facilities. So that's why we like to be involved as a community. They're talking about 900 houses over here. That is going to impact us. And we are involved with the community again, just like we did for the 27 acres. So we're not troublemakers. Respect us. Look for us. Invite us. And not just one week before the meeting, and you're going to tell us what you're going to plan to do. And so-called you're already covered by the law, or the extent of the law. So please don't make us resent the way you act. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate your candid, and that's why I'm glad you're here to express that. And we'll continue, and I'll take responsibility. We have several campus forums that we do put on our website, and we'll work to make sure we invite the community. We do have faculty staff here, so I can say that in response to what happened in the past, of course, I wasn't in the position, but I guarantee you, working with both Doug Smith and Chancellor Budd, we'll do all we can to work together as a team. I'm not going to speak to old terminology that was used, but I will tell you this. I've had the blessing to work along with Doug Smith directly for 6 months, and trust me, we've had some candid conversations, and that language does not shake the spirit of the man he is. And so that's one thing. In terms of offering more programs, I must tell you something. We reached out to a theater group, and on a Sunday, I came down to work. And when I was on campus on a Sunday, I must tell you, we had a soccer game at the field, we had a community theater in our theater, and we had people walking their dogs on campus. And I felt proud because it was a community. And granted, we're always going to try to grow, but let me tell you, about 70% of our students are low income. Many of them work. Their options we open our doors when students can come, right? And we're expanding to weekend campus. We're going to do more innovative things, but we're also doing distance technology as well to accommodate the needs of our students. And so we appreciate your honesty and energy. I'm not going to, today's focus was primarily our facilities master plan, not the 27 acres. There will be an opportunity to address that, and we're working on the details. There will be a meeting right here, and it's not, I don't want to set in stone, but connect with me. I believe it may be February 3rd, a Saturday right here, and we're going to communicate with, that's with the city, and it's going to be right here. And then, of course, you know, downtown on Market Street. You had a question?
Yeah. Well, I just want to make a comment here. You know, I applaud your efforts for really bringing in for the community, giving out the turkeys. I read that on Evergreen Times, and just bringing in more students and growing the student population. And I would think it'd be prudent, you know, if there's the 27 acres, I just want to bring this up, you know, it'd be prudent to, you know, to have some of that area for expansion of the campus. You know, I know that I look at this picture right now, it is pretty congested. You know, in that space, you know, for sports facilities, you mentioned a swim facility, right?
Aquatic center, yes.
Yeah, that's right. So I don't know where that would go, but I think you would need more area. So can you comment about expansion of, you know, into other areas besides what we're seeing right there?
Yeah. Well, nothing has been set in stone in terms of how the use of the surplus land will be used, because that's not in the purview of this conversation. But I will tell you this, as a concerned citizen, and as a leader, I'm proud to say that I've been in conversation with the district about the opportunity, if needed, for the campus to expand in that area. But we haven't solidified any of that. We're fortunate. We sit on 131 acres? 140 acres? 34 acres? This is one of the large, forget the surplus land, this is one of the biggest campuses in the area in terms of land space. And so people tend not to forget that. But I'm also saying is, I'm also a pro advocate for students in the community. Remember I said I came here 23 years ago? This was all open. It was, you know, this was open space. Matter of fact, they had vineyards over here. So I know one of the things that attracted me here was open space. Yeah. So I get that. So I'm conscious of that. And so is the district leadership. I'm not going to get into the negotiation of the land lease and all that. You can get that later. But I know this much. Well, she may not forgive me saying this. When the chancellor, she inherited that issue, and she's working hard to deal with that issue. She wasn't happy with the original agreement. So be careful. Just be in mind, we're advocates for doing things better for the community.
It's the student's property.
But let me tell you this: you can build all the buildings in the world, but if I don't have resources, I can't help students. See, the Measure X builds buildings. It doesn't give me money to help students, right? And so that's important. We also need revenue so students can have services, right? That's important. But I understand the needs of the community in that regard. Anyway, so I appreciate that. Yes.
I want to thank you for outreaching the community by putting the ad in Evergreen Times.
We can't hear him back here.
He can't hear you back there.
I want to thank you for reaching out to the community by putting the notice in the Evergreen Times. We love the Evergreen Times, and the Evergreen Times is widely read, and that was a very good thing to do. My understanding was that the 2030 facilities plan that was adopted a couple of years ago came to the conclusion that the 27 acres was not needed in the context of that study, And my understanding is that with the passage of a couple of years and the evolution of thinking and the reality of Measure X, that there is some reconsideration of updating the facilities master plan to look at how, in fact, some of the 27 acres can be used. Maybe this is a question for the facilities director or Chancellor Blood, if you could explain that to us so that we understand if the facilities master plan is being updated to take a look at some of the 27 acres given the passage of time and new information.
Thank you. And thank you, Keith, for all of your great, clear comments. Today, as we're looking at the facilities master plan, it's really to look at what was identified in the 2030 facilities master plan. As we have on the board agenda on Tuesday night, working with Republic Urban Properties with an exclusive negotiation agreement is what's being requested for the board to review and approve. In that, it's clear that we will be negotiating with them to look at what might be developed. And at the present time, it is a portion of that land, not all of it. And as President H said when I arrived, it was initially all 27 acres. And remember, it was initially for 1.5 million for all 27 acres. And there was housing that the community was upset about. Over the last 2 years, it has changed. There is not housing in that. And as you'll even see in the discussion next week, it is on a portion of that, just as we had said, with areas to look at for the future. As we look at our fellow colleges across the state with aquatics and fitness facilities, yes, there could be room on our property that exists here, or is it bigger than we had thought from that and on a section? So there is flexibility. And so as you'll see in that, nothing is locking into it right now. It's just to continue to review that. And I'm just really thankful for the college leadership here and the faculty and staff engaged to say, how do we serve our students and community, and looking at that. So I hope that answered your question. This first part is what existed before, and we are looking at in that land lease of the flexibility of as we develop. So thank you.
Any questions? Yes.
In the recent news, I saw that Oracle opened a high school on their campus to focus on STEM classes. Has anyone in the district reached out to Google and seen what they want you to offer to see so your students can become Google employees? Because they're buying up downtown San Jose and so on.
And that's one of the reasons housing is so expensive, yes. We actually, I'm not going to call the chancellor back out, but she drags me all over the world to work with businesses. We talk to businesses nonstop about partnership. Our entrepreneurship was with FlexNext. NextFlex, I'm sorry, I juxtaposed it. So we do this all the time. We're always looking for partnerships. We were at a meeting with Alaska Airlines, talking about how we can expand our curriculum in that area. We do it nonstop because to grow, that's the next wave. You have to partner. We actually had a Dean's Academy at Google this summer to talk about how we can partner. Trust me, we do it nonstop. And I don't know if you know the young lady next to you, she's definitely heavily involved in that. We always try to look at how we can partner because that's where you have to grow. And one of the things, you know, when the governor was talking about these outcomes, completion agendas, one of the ways we don't get, because we're basic aid, one of the revenues we get is from a strong workforce, right? And that means that one of the outcomes for students is not so much transfer, but it's career technology. And for every career, for example, automotive program, they have an advisory group. So those businesses work with our faculty to say, as a matter of fact, they do such a good job. Once they get one certificate, they hire. So we have an obligation, as you said, to work with that. And we beg Google, and we were, Chancellor and I were at a meeting yesterday, and we were talking about doing a grant to work with Facebook for internships and money. Trust me, I didn't realize how hard we work in that area to do that. And also some of the great work we're doing with Dr. William Watson the community college of economic mobility. I think I got it right now. And that's one of his primary assignments is to connect us. Because sometimes I work so hard with the chancellor. I said, Chancellor, are we private business? I mean, she really. If we go, it's funny, if I go into a meeting, let's say they're talking about how to build bubble gum, you know, she says to me, Keith, can't we do bubble gum machines at Evergreen? She connects everything to what we can do, and I'm being facetious, but she's always looking for that area. So that's an excellent question. Any other questions, concerns? I want to thank, yes.
Oh, I'm just so sorry. I just wanted to make sure we circle back a little bit to the community. No, don't move, sir. Circle back to the communication issue. I wanted to thank the Evergreen Times for us. We did get this out on our website for this meeting before we left for the Christmas break. Thank you so much to my IT manager back there for that. But also we did feature this in the Evergreen Times. It came out on the January 5th issue, so thank you for that. And he doesn't know it yet, but we bought about 10 slots for Vice President Della and Mark, so that we can start advertising, yes we did, advertising in that going forward so that people are aware of the next community forums we have, so we do have that already on lock.
And we sent out postcards, I don't know how many we sent out. How many did we send out? 22. We're actually, we can always improve, but we're doing a hard job at communicating. And we're going to continue to do so. It is important that we communicate with the community, and the person who leads me in our communication, she lives across the street. She lives in the community. She reminds me, when I go to the gym, people remind me of the community. When I go to Lucky's, people remind me of how the community is. But more importantly, it is the students who live in this community who remind me it's important that we do. Yes?
I noticed you put a new sign on San Felipe.
San Felipe?
Are you going to put an electronic sign there? Because I see grammar schools, junior highs, and high schools that have large ones.
We're doing a new sign. Yeah, we're definitely going to do new signage. Digital sign. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. I want to first thank all of you for being here. I also want to thank my team, also the staff who helps. Oftentimes we thank everybody else, but we have classified professionals who prepare the room, set up the food, and we also want to thank them. I want to thank all of you. If you want to take some home to your family, you know, if you don't want to go shopping, say, hey, I got some sweets, you can do that, coffee, or sit around and chit chat. We won't kick you out until it's about 7 o'clock. Oh, the campus closes at 10, so you can stay and talk to BPA until 10 o'clock. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.